Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the AEW. Sorry, not AEW, but WCW Saturday Night edition for the 10th of March, 1990. We should be finishing 1990 here this weekend or so. Going back to 1989 after that, which is interesting. I haven't seen the full year of 89 before, so that's a good run. I have seen 87 and at least half of 88, and I've actually watched all of 88 at this point, going back to 87 in my watching. So obviously get at least 100 more of these available for your listening pleasure. Also 20, almost 2,600 now uh, going going forward in general. But anyhow, this is the March 10th, 1990 edition of WCW. And again, WCW having only been around for about a year and a half at this point, maybe a little more than that. Certainly a different run here than in other places. Jim Ross, Jim Cornette are your commentators for the day, evening, whatever have you. And obviously, we kind of go into a decent enough situation there. Um, I mean, the WCW run here is valuable I guess, in a vacuum is what I would call it. What I mean by in a vacuum is at the end of the day, WCW, even as soon as this point in 1990, really struggling to find its identity, and Jim Herd certainly didn't particularly help with that endeavor. Anyhow, as we go forward, kind of getting things in a more organized fashion, as it were, and Wrestle War 90 being talked about a good bit from a couple of weeks before. Wrestle War, of course, the originally a lot of people thought Ric Flair was going to lose the championship to Lex Luger there. That didn't happen. Obviously, Sting there to cheer on Luger primarily. Also, an enhancement match there with the Rock and Roll Express starting things off. Rock and Roll Express still having good flow in 1990 enhancement match for the Rock and Rolls. Not particularly something that you need to go out of your way to see. Double clotheslines, double back elbows, other basic things, double back body drops, and then of course the Rock and Rolls match goes on probably longer than it needs to, but at the end of the day, they still manage to go into a situation with something of the double drop kick, and eventually the team gets the victory. Then we go on to another in the series of matches, and I mean by saying it goes on too long, they're almost 12, 13 minutes into the program before. Actually, they are 14 minutes into the program before we go to the next segment. Jim Ross and Jim Cornette are your announcers here. Mick Foley, aka Cactus Jack, tag team match with Kevin Sullivan. Sullivan's Slaughterhouse, the continuation. Tag off to Sullivan and a bit of a brawl with the enhancement talents that are here. Not exactly the best of matches. Sullivan at the time does a lot of punch kick, really basic stuff. The dive, though, from the ring apron onto the floor by Cactus Jack with the elbow drop, pretty major thing. Cactus defending the integrity of Kevin Sullivan and insulted that Mike Rotundo or anyone else would have issues with none other than Kevin Sullivan, because he believes that Sullivan is a good person. That promo's pretty well there. The Freebirds kind of are trying to be somewhat more unified. Jimmy Garvin and Michael P.S. Hayes at the time. That I will say the WCW run here in 1990 up through the midpoint of 90 still heavy on tag teams. Hayes and Garvin trying to make us think that they're like Kiss or Leonard Skinner or some other major band with promises of tours and CDs and etc. and so forth. Needless to say, Michael Hayes hitting a couple of chokes and other cheating maneuvers along the way, and not really all that interested in doing the right thing, but Leather Jackets promises and double DDT by the Freebirds leads them to a victory, which is the main focus here. Then we go to Doom coming out. Doom kind of getting more ready for their tag team championship run primarily. Enhancement match for Doom. Teddy Long is their manager and does the majority of their talking. Butch Reed and Ron Simmons are pretty dominant throughout this enhancement match. Double elevated clothesline, and the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, talk about wanting to eradicate WCW of Doom. So Legion of Doom and Doom, just interesting there. Snack on Danger, Dine on Death type stuff. Lex Luger promising that he is going to eventually eradicate Ric Flair from the World Championship, and that continues to be a main focus. Captain Mike Rotundo, having broken away from the clutches of Sullivan Slaughterhouse in an enhancement match here. Not really a great match by any stretch of the imagination, but arm bars, arm locks, basic stuff along the way. Coming back to his feet, deep hip toss, and eventually we see Rotundo getting a victory here. The Steiner brothers promising to get rid of Doom, Tom promising to get rid of the Minnesota Wrecking Crew and other such. Bubba Rose and Nasty Ned Brady are in the next tag team match. Lots of heavy tag team stuff as we see Tommy Rich and his tag team partner Eddie Gilbert. Eddie Gilbert and Tommy Rich in this incarnation, kind of interesting because they were probably feud of the year in Memphis in 1983, 84. So just interesting that 7 years later they acknowledge or they don't acknowledge their history in previous places. Always struck me as odd. But anyway, really basic maneuvers, but not limited to limited to a Thez press. And Gilbert taking the victory there would have actually been fun to see Eddie Gilbert and Tommy Rich rekindle their feud. Ahead of the main event, which is a good 15 or so minute match, Jim Cornette promises that the Midnight Express, Stan Lane, and Bobby Eaton will be your U.S. Tag Team Champions against none other than Tom Zink and Flying Brian Pillman. Really good match, worth going out of your way to see. Eaton, of course, using his right hand. Eaton staying on Pillman the majority of the match during the early stages. Babyface fire as the even an attempt at a superplex is caught there by Eaton, and double team on the challengers. A little bit there, back and forth. Some leapfrogs and deep hip tosses from Tom Zink. Zink takes care of both men, and the bump around machine is caught by none other than Tom Zink, and near fall with a sunset flip. Match is very back and forth, although I'd say majority of it goes to the Midnight Express. They cut the ring off again on Pillman. Midnight's manage the modified double team maneuver, getting them the victory. And also post-match, big angle that's going to keep them in line with each other. Jim Cornette managing to hit Pillman with the tennis racket, busting his throat open as well. And Jim Cornette lays out both of the former champions as the Midnight Express are your new U.S. Tag Team Champions going forward. We'll be back with more right after this.